We are in Module 17. We're talking about advanced formula creation. We are all the way down to Section 3, and this is the section where I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what Excel calls data validation. There might be times when you have columns that you'd like others to be able to put data into, and instead of actually letting them freely type, you can actually set up some drop-down lists with some messages to tell them what to put in the cell and things like that. And that's called data validation. Let me give you a quick example of how this would work. We've got this product list here, and if you notice in column A, they've got the item code, column B is the price, and then we have column C, a place where others can come and put in the color of that particular item. Let's use blue as an example. What's going to happen if multiple people use the same file is one person may type blue with a capital B, another person may use a lowercase b, someone may come along and misspell it, someone may not type anything in there at all, and you just end up with all kinds of just junk in that particular column, and it makes it almost impossible to either sort or filter your list when it's all messed up like that. What we can do is create a drop-down so that someone has to pick an item from the drop-down list, and that keeps everything in that particular column consistent. Now, in order to do this, you have to have a list somewhere in your file. You can put it over to the side if you want. You can put it on another sheet. It's probably best to put it on another sheet because then you can go through and hide that sheet and others can't go in and actually mess with the list and maybe rearrange it. But let's start off just putting our list over to the side somewhere. Let's say that over here we just put in a couple of colors. We'll do blue, we'll do green, we'll do red, and we'll do yellow. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and make the list left aligned there so it matches. You don't have to put the list in alphabetical order, but it's probably best because people expect to see that when they're picking from a drop-down. I'm going to go ahead and start over in column C, and I'm going to go ahead and select from C5 through C14. Where we want to go is under the Data tab. You're going to see a group called Data Tools. Right above it here it says Data Validation. You want to choose the very first one, Data Validation. Under the first tab which says Settings, here's where you can tell Excel what types of things you'd like to allow in these cells. Notice your choices. You might have numbers and you might say just whole numbers, decimals. You might have a list, which is what we're going to do. Notice I might have dates in here. I might have text. Maybe you have a particular text length. You only want it to be 20 characters. There's tons of different options you can pick. Ours is going to be a list that people pick from. Now you'll notice if I choose list, I don't have to pick anything here. It's grayed out. But I do have to tell it the source. Where is the list? I'm going to go back here and select it like this. And you see that that range is now an absolute value. I'm just going to click OK. And now you'll notice there's a little drop down next to each cell when you click there. So if I click there and drop the list down, there's my list, and I can choose whichever colors I'd like to pick for that list. And you can see now that this is keeping everything very consistent. I'll be able to sort very easily, so let me just randomly pick a few more things from this list here. We'll do red here, we'll do maybe blue here, and one more, we'll do another blue. Now let's look over at the column that says color number. Let's say that when someone types a number here, it has to be between 100 and 200. What we'd like to happen is we want the user to see a message before they start typing that tells them that it has to be between 100 and 200. And we'll also talk about how to set up an error message so if they happen to type a number outside of that range, it prompts them. I'm clicked over the color number column. That's column D. I'll go ahead and select all the way from D5 through D14. I'm going back to data validation. I'll choose the first one again. This time we're going to say we want a whole number. Now you'll see that it pops up and says between, but notice my choices. It might be that I want to pick a whole number that's greater than a certain number that I tell it, less than a certain number. We're going to say the minimum number is 100 and the maximum number is 200, and then click OK. Now what you'll notice is that if I come over here and type in, let's say I type 150, well that's obviously within our range, but what if I type 250? Since that is outside the range that I told it, it gives me an error message that says the data value doesn't match the restrictions defined for this cell. And the individual can go and retry. Now we didn't tell them that ahead of time. They didn't know that. So let me show you how to set up these little messages so that the user knows exactly what you're wanting from them. If you go back to data validation, then what you're going to see is there is an input message. You do have to give all of your messages a name. I'll go ahead and just say input. And down here I'm going to say must enter a number between 100 and 200. And I'll click OK, and now you'll see that that cell, when you're actually clicked on it, tells the user exactly what they have to do. Now you'll notice I only did that one cell. So now I'm going to have to copy that down to all the cells if I want that message to appear when I click on any of these cells. I also don't have it on the first cell, so I'd want to copy it up there. And I'm going to go ahead and fix this because it will drive me crazy if I don't. That is a bottom border. Now let's say I type in 150, which is in my range, and let's say that I type in 300 again. So I know what I need to type in there, but I still don't have the error message I'd like the user to see. So that's the third thing I want to show you is I'll select the range again, and when we go back to data validation, we can also have an error alert. I will need to put a title here. I'll call this error message. And then down here I'll actually put the message. The number you typed is incorrect. It must be a whole number between 100 and 200. I'll click OK, and let's try it out. I'm going to type 250 here, and there's the exact message that I just told it I would like my user to see. And that's really all there is to data validation. I could go ahead and create another list over here for the departments if I wanted, and then I would have a drop-down list for that column as well. I did mention to you earlier that you probably want to have these lists on another sheet. Then go and hide that sheet, and that way no one can go in and actually rearrange your list or add something to the list. Something to be really careful about: if you don't actually protect the list and have a password, somebody who knows that the sheet is hidden can go in there and unhide the sheet and then change the list. Just be aware of that. That's really all I wanted to tell you about data validation. Let's go ahead and move into section 4 and we'll talk about formula auditing.